Welcome today, Ocean and Anastasia. Nice to meet you all. And thanks for being here, and to people who are in the room via Zoom, welcome. I'm C. I am from the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, where I co-founded a film center and regional archive called ENTRE. And I'm here today to talk about intentional collaborations and partnerships within archives and other community orgs. And it's gonna be a very interactive workshop, and we're gonna hear a little bit about the projects you all are working on, and kind of discuss different ways that we can figure out how different organizations, individuals, community led initiatives can kind of help or hinder your situations, your projects, and just kind of brainstorm together and learn a little bit more about interrelational processes. So. And also my presentation is very colorful and refers to the tarot quite a bit. So I hope you all enjoy. So here's a bit of an overview of what we're doing today. From 10 to 11, we'll do some introductions and get to know one another and go over the workshop, what we're going to be covering. From 11 to 12, we'll start doing some project examples and participant sharing. So that's when you can kind of discuss what you're working on and where you're coming from. We'll take a little break for lunch between 12 and 1. Snowden will be taking orders for those who are here, so we can have lunch brought in during that time. And then the rest of the workshop after that will just be more project sharing, resource sharing, and things like that. Some of the things we'll be talking about are interpersonal relationships, memory work, respect and reciprocity, essential documents, grant writing, budgets, and outreach. And I choose I'll let you know, like, I am very much into the tarot. I believe it as a tool of not just divination, but as a way of kind of figuring out how to move forward in terms of archetypes and what kind of archetypes represent different types of, I guess, communication structures, ways of interacting with other people and individuals and different orgs. I'm kind of applying that to the work I do in archives in South Texas, because it's very much led from a very heart-centered space. I chose the Magician for this opening card because the Magician is the first card in the deck after the Fool. The Fool begins the journey, and the Magician is what holds all the tools at their disposal. They have everything that they need to create what they are seeking to create. So we just want to start the workshop to thinking about how we already have all the things we need within ourselves, and how can we pull out our own skill sets and expertise and lived experiences to be able to be in collaboration with other individuals and be able to enhance each other's talents and skills through that sharing of materials and resources and experience. So I kind of wanted to just kind of go over memory work, which is kind of the basis of a lot of archival work, is working with memory, and it's like ephemerality of experience, but also physical formats of memory. So whether that's photographs, documents, moving image, oral histories, all of this is encompassed in memory work, and memory work is extremely important. And when you're doing this type of work, we all have a responsibility to adhere to in how to preserve and exhibit those materials that we are collecting. I wanted to just give a little brief, I just don't like this toolbar kind of coming down again. I don't know how to change it. I want to give a brief overview of what memory work entails. So memory work entails adding on an ethical component which acknowledges the responsibility towards revisiting distorted histories, thereby decreasing the risk of social exclusion and increasing the possibility of social cohesion of at-risk groups. So in the past, as we all know, like, history has been recorded by those that have been granted more privilege and access to power through systems that keep our society oppressed and very much in a state of conflict for centuries. And what we're trying to do as archivists now is move away from that model of extraction and exploitation in collections. And how do we create these relationships and work with individuals, donors, institutions, community organizations to create a better relationship between the collections that we are pursuing and the people whose lives make up those collections. So history, as we all know, is focused on factual recounts of experiences, things like that. It is not memory. It's also thinking about who is responsible, I mean, who has been the people who have been documenting our history, who gets that access, who gets that privilege, and that power. And if we look back on it, if we see that history is being written from a very Eurocentric white supremacist system, then we're leaving out a lot of experiences, a lot of personal histories, a lot of untold or forgotten or buried histories from communities of color, communities that are more disadvantaged due to these systemic forces. Individual experience shapes our collective memory. So it's important that we do pursue and try to work with individuals in communities of these natures that have had their histories repressed or erased from a historical record, and trying to bring about more of that collaborative process of meeting these people where they're at, seeing how we could implement their stories and their memories into our own archives and our history, rewriting history from a more individual experience, and also, just seeing how that informs the collective memory of our communities. We are all doing memory work as archivists, historians, librarians, culture bearers, heritage centers, and of course, personally, everyone can be a memory worker, especially if you're interested in understanding more about your own family, talking to people in your community. Like, these are all activities that employ memory work. I really want to move this thing.
You can't see it on the.
Oh, you can't? Okay, great.
Zoom, just
Wonderful.
Okay,
great.
I can't see it on the screen.
Great. Okay, as long as you all can see and you can see the full slides. So when I'll talk a little bit about what I do and where I'm coming from in terms of archives and collaborations. The way I like to look at collaborative partnerships is as if we are tending to a garden. And you have to really nurture those relationships to be able to see things grow and start planting seeds of ideas, of interest, of goals, and to like work towards those goals long term. You definitely have to be checking in with one another, understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses, acknowledging capacity levels, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very involved process, and this approach allows us to really think about how these partnerships become less of an extractive situation and more of a collaborative situation. And the Three of Pentacles is something that I relate a lot to in terms of working in collaboration with others. The Three of Pentacles is a card that expresses collaboration in itself. You can see here the three figures in the card are discussing this wall that they've been constructing and continuing to elaborate on what else others have to do. And it becomes a process. Instead of thinking about partnerships as like a two-way, two-person, two-organization thing, you think about how if we're coming from one organization or one person and another organization is coming together, it creates this third thing, right? Which is the process, which is the collaborative initiative. So this card truly encapsulates what it means to be in collaboration with one another. And I say this because when I come from a background of film restoration mostly. I got into film restoration through post-production work. I am a film colorist, so I started doing digital color remastering and also doing a lot of film scanning of older and new film materials. And from there is when I started getting my experience in archives and learning more about digital preservation, film preservation and archival practices, things like that. And that just really resonated with me because I am a filmmaker and artist, so I really enjoy working with tactile mediums. I do a lot of direct animated films, a lot of work with like regular 8 cameras, super 8 cameras, 16. I was just shooting this today. This is my film diary. It's a little Revere model from the 50s, regular 8 black and white film, and I take it everywhere with me because it's just so compact and perfect. So I have like archives of the past like few years with this camera of my life basically, and just things that I find interesting in the world. So I really gravitated towards film preservation and archival work and the importance of that industry and that realm of archives. So I was doing that for the last, I was doing that for like 6 years in Los Angeles. That's when I moved here and was working at a post house, but also freelancing, and then working with the oral history department at the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences as their colorist and Spanish language editor. And that's when I got really into oral histories as well, and the importance behind doing oral history and how oral history can be included in my art and filmmaking practice. So started combining all these things together. During my time in Los Angeles, I was also a very active member of the Echo Park Film Center, which is no longer a brick and mortar in Echo Park anymore, but they are still a collective that is doing a lot in the Los Angeles area. And also a lot of people during 2020 who left Los Angeles, who were part of the Echo Park Film Center, went to go create their own media organizations in their hometowns and such. So it was very much a catalyst for a lot of artists and cultural workers and activists to like go out and like spread the love of cinema, the power of cinema to their own communities beyond Los Angeles. So that's what was the impetus for me to start, to go back home in 2021 and co-found a film center regional archive called ENTRE. So we've been around since mid-2021. We're a worker-owned cooperative. So it was started by me and my friend Andres Sanchez, who is also a filmmaker and activist, musician. We both have very similar backgrounds in the DIY punk scene growing up and things like that. So we knew how to really like organize from nothing, like grassroots organization. Creating something from nothing is very much a pillar of the community in the Rio Grande Valley, because we do not have that many resources where we come from, especially in the realm of arts and archives. We also, through the Film Center, as a film center, we offer workshops and screenings, mostly around non-traditional, non-commercial cinema, so documentary, community-made cinema, experimental film, video art, and other sorts of films that wouldn't normally be shown or premiered or screened in that region. Our workshops focus on a variety of things as well, but that range from, basic video creation 101, like how cameras work, lighting, sound, editing, things like that, but also things like eco-processing film with plants from the region, or direct animation films where participants paint or draw on the film strips and we create a film together. So we try to employ a lot of people from our community to lead these workshops or program these screenings. So it's a very much community effort. And then our archive focuses on the collection and oral histories and home movies from our region. Those have been very scarce in our local libraries and heritage centers in the Rio Grande Valley. And so we decided that as an archive, that is what we wanted to focus on. And coming from a background of my love for home movies and film preservation and archival practices, it just felt like the combination of the two, of a film center and an archive, was like the best way to move forward with this project. So that's the origin of ENTRE. And I'll give you a little bit about our mission statement, because we're going to be talking about how to write one later on. So our mission statement for ENTRE is an artist-run community film center and regional archive that focuses on the creation, exhibition, and preservation of community-made cinema, documentary, video art, and other forms of alternative cinematic expression. Located in the Rio Grande Valley, Texas, ENTRE's mission is to provide access, knowledge, and skills in filmmaking and archival practices, inviting more voices to document, share, and preserve the vast narrative of the U.S.-Mexico border communities. what we found in our history in the Rio Grande Valley is that other people from outside of our region come in to document and tell our stories for us. I'm sure you've heard about the border crisis in our region that's on the news 24/7. And people just think that that's our life down there, is this conflict all the time. And there is that, yes, but there's also so much beauty and joy that is found in our region that is not being amplified at the national or state level. We see it when we're there, but there's no one really like capturing that or documenting that and archiving it for the future, so people know we're not just this region strife with conflict of immigration policy and this rhetoric of fear and violence. There's also a lot of beauty in our region and a lot of interconnectivity with the land itself and the people who are there, and we're trying to amplify that through this organization. Entre means in Spanish between, within, through. So the complexity of that, of living in a border region, of that liminality, liminal space of being not from here or there, you're just kind of in this limbo. It's its own world, its own microcosm. So Entre kind of encapsulates that. Like we are talking about this region that is between, that is within, that is inside, and we want to, as an org, we're trying to reconnect our community, because the river is now a division between Mexico and US. And as our efforts continue through the art and the archives, we're hoping to bridge that community again with working with people from Mexico, people from Texas, bringing them together to create art or to archive, to learn about archival practices, and to provide a new creative economy for our region as a worker-owned cooperative. So like I was saying, we thrive on interpersonal relationship, intentional partnerships and collaborations. Some of the things that we do at Entre is Home Movie Day. We love Home Movie Day, which was started by the Center for Home Movies. Woo! And this has never been done in the Rio Grande Valley. The Texas Archive of Moving Image does do a Texas Home Movie Roundup, but they hadn't been in the Rio Grande Valley for a while. So when we started in 2021, we hosted our first Home Movie Day in 2021, and we had a few people come through. In 2022, we had more people come through, and the more people that experience Home Movie Day understand like the importance of what it is to like care for and preserve those memories and those stories, and just have a really great experience connecting with other people in our community, and like hearing about their lives, seeing their home movies, laughing together. It's a very wholesome experience, and we just hope to continue to have it grow in the region. What came out of the Home Movie Day, the first one, was this launch of a project, community archival project called Boca Chica, Corazón Grande. Boca Chica Beach is a beach in South Texas in Brownsville, where currently Elon Musk's SpaceX facility is. And they've been launching rockets off of that area, which have been exploding and leaving a lot of debris across the land, creating health and environmental risks for the communities and the surrounding areas. The land is also sacred to the Carrizo Come Crudo tribe of Texas, and is being completely disregarded by these forces. And so what this project is trying to do is trying to archive and document and preserve the history and culture of that land. There's hardly any documentation of that beach in our local libraries and cultural centers. This project was brought to me by a Brownsville native. I did not grow up going to Boca Chica Beach. There's another beach in the valley called South Padre Island, and that's where I grew up going. But Boca Chica Beach is more considered the people's beach. A lot of people from Matamoros, the sister city of Brownsville, would come to Playa Bagdad, which was the other side of the river of Boca Chica. Boca Chica is on this side, Playa Bagdad's on this side. The river flows through and empties into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a really beautiful, like, loaded area, very energetically charged area of where the water meets the land, and how our two land masses of Texas and Mexico are connecting there. So Monica Sosa, she's from Brownsville, grew up going to Boca Chica Beach. she's the one that approached us about this project, about wanting to document and preserve that beach's history. And that's when I started doing research to see what was in our local archives and things like that. And I found 3 photographs at the Brownsville Historical Association that were from the 1920s and 1930s, so very far away in time. And they weren't even digitally, like they weren't accessible to the public. I had to ask them to scan them for me. And so which they happily did. It was a very like, just wrote them an email and asked them for help, and they did, and they were very happy to help. That's what I love about archives and archivists. They're very willing to help with anything and wanting to spread information. So we found those 3 photographs, and then there was 1 home movie on the Texas Archive of Moving Image archive online from 1971. And that's it. That's all we have of recorded images and things like that. There's some maps and things like that, but not photographs or moving image. So that's when we decided we wanted to take on this project and call it a community archival project, because we're going to be in community working with individuals who grew up or have a relationship with Boca Chica Beach, and just connect with them to see if they have any images, home movies, stories, oral histories that they'd like to share with us. So we started that in 2021. And since then, we've popped up at the local flea market in Brownsville and have we did a little tabling there, and people just talked to people about the project. And we talked to one man, Bernabé Machuca, who grew up going to Boca Chica Beach with his family. He was telling us all these stories, and then he went home and brought back 12 photographs for us to archive. And he's a major donor in our system now, and he has so many stories to share. So we've digitally scanned and preserved his images and have returned them to him. And he's very much an active part of the conversation of building this collection. We're always on the phone with him, keeping up with him and his family. So that's like an example of how we've been really working with community, inside community, not just, we learned that we can't rely on social media. We have to be on the ground and in spaces where people are gathering, like flea markets, like places of worship, community centers, things like that, farmers markets, just trying to get out of the online sphere and into community to make those real life connections. So Boca Chica is a big project for us, and I'll talk more about it later as we go on. We also are offering video preservation workshops. That's another collaboration we're doing with BAVAC, the Bay Area Video Coalition. We're one of their host sites for their video preservation project series. And what that is we're able to offer an amazing course to the community for free to learn the 101 of video, basically how video works, how to read a video signal on an oscilloscope, things like that, how to inspect and assess video materials for preservation. And this is super helpful for us because that allows us to train people in our community who are interested, who may not have that background in school. We're very much of an organization that wants to bring skill sets and knowledge that is only offered in higher level education to the community for free or low cost. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to train people how to do those things and have them come back and work with us in the archive, or go beyond that and find themselves, if they're really interested in archives, find themselves going in a career path in a different way. And like I said earlier, our programmers, our facilitators, our contractors, they're all part of our community. We work with a lot of people in our community to come up with ideas for what we want to screen, how we want to present those events, and how can we just be the facilitators and they lead these projects, right? Like giving agency to people and their ideas, and just providing that support of resources and skill beyond that. And same with workshops. If someone has a skill that we find or they just want to share something that they've learned, or maybe they've taken one of our workshops and we want them to continue teaching that workshop with us or for us. So it's kind of this snowball effect, where if you take something like an eco-processing workshop that I've led, there's already someone who has taken it that wants to teach it, so it's kind of passing that baton over and continuing that knowledge sharing process. and our contractors as well. They all come from communities. We work with people who range from artists to grant writers to technicians to construction, like any way they can help us out at the film center, the archive, we are very open to, and we just really want to make it a space where people from all backgrounds can come and experience and give their input into how the center moves forward, because it's made for the community. And I mentioned the Center for Home Movies earlier. I currently sit on the board of the Center for Home Movies, which is a volunteer-run organization that advocates for the preservation and exhibition of home movies across the globe. They started Home Movie Day, as I mentioned earlier, and that's always happens in October. It can be whenever you want. We say Home Movie Day is whenever you want it to be, but the official day is October 15th, 16th, depending on that area. And if you haven't participated in a home movie day, have any of you participated in home movie days? Snowden's one of the founding members of Center for Home Movies. It is a lot of fun, and in Los Angeles there's a lot of interactivity with people. You get to see a lot of really cool pieces. If you want to be a volunteer, they train you on how to do things. If you want to be a host site, we have a lot of resources and things on the Center for Home Movies website.
It's local, it's everything you want.
It's from the micro local to the larger global standpoint. We did a project a few years ago that was called Home Movie Day and Night. That was home movies from around the globe that were streaming for 24 hours in different time zones. So you could tune in at any point and see a movie from China, and then another one from Italy, just all these home movies from around the world. And it was a wonderful project of a huge collaborative effort between a lot of archivists across the globe. And that's kind of what the Center for Home Movies advocates for, is that connection between not just what's it called? Trained archivists, but also volunteers and people who are just interested in this stuff. Because
the kitchen table archivists.
Yes,
well.
Exactly.
The
family archivists.
Rios, grannies.
Yes. Yeah. Because some people have boxes and boxes of films in their garage or their attic, and they don't understand, they don't realize the importance of how they must care for these memories are important. A lot of people don't think that their home movies are important, but they are, because they inform our cultural tapestry, and they add to our collective memory by showing individual experience and lived experiences. Last year we partnered with a production company that was working on a documentary about Y2K, and they wanted to do which is now in the festival circuits right now. I forget the name of it. I'm blanking on that right now, but I'll send it in the review. But what they wanted to partner with the Center for Home Movies was they wanted us to help them put out a call for people to use our networks and our Home Movie Day host group to see if anyone has home movies from that night of 1999, so specific. And they had found some on YouTube, and we helped, we worked with them to put out the call, developed, these things, sharing information, parameters around what our involvement in the project look like, which we'll discuss later with MOUs and things like that. But that's something we also did recently. That was a collaboration between and it was one of the first times we've done something like that with an actual production company and an archival producer and the Center for Home Movies. And then we're also working on the Home Movie Registry, which is a big database of all the home movies that are publicly accessible or in different institutions, to try and bring all these different institutions together to have one shared database so people can search for any home movie in one area that will span across different areas across the world and nation.